Welcome back to another episode of Diversity Works. My name is Soha Mohammed, and I'm a navigator for the regional team here at Workforce Solutions. This month is National Disability Employment Awareness Month, and we have a very special guest lined up. But before we introduce our guest, I'd like to introduce
Frieda Carmouche. I'm part of the regional facilitator team, additionally with Workforce Solutions. And of course, our special guest is Mr. Kevin McCloskey, who is the Director of Partnership Development at Disability Solutions. By the way, this is in Bethel, Connecticut. So, how are you doing, Kevin?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. Thank you. So, I guess the first question that we'd like to ask you is, what are some of the wonderful things going on right now with your organization?
We got a lot of great things going on here at Disability Solutions. The last 2 years have been, kind of trouble for a lot of individuals and a lot of, just the world in general. But it's been a really great opportunity for Disability Solutions and, more importantly, employers looking to become more inclusive, and more importantly, people with disabilities looking to find employment. So again, it's opened up, the pandemic has opened up a lot of great opportunities for people with disabilities. More employers are searching for talent, and they really haven't searched for talent in the disability community, and now they're actually doing it. So it's really great for us, and again, great for people with disabilities. So great things happening. We're working with about 60 to 70 different employers right now. Disability Solutions started about 10 years ago with Pepsi beverages, and now again, we're up to about 67 different employers, helping them with their programs to proactively go out there and recruit and hire people with disabilities. We also just announced a huge project we're doing with Bristol Myers Squibb. We're helping them be more inclusive of people with disabilities when it comes to some clinical trials, which is really cool. So a lot of great things happening.
Sounds incredible. Sounds like a lot of cool projects. Kevin, I wanted to ask, I am a navigator for the regional team. I work a lot with individuals with disabilities. And I see what you're saying. I think a lot of companies are looking to have a more inclusive work environment. But that being said, I still get so many customers who complain of not being able to find work. I mean, they have the education, they have the credentials, but it's just hard for them to get their foot in the door. Do you think that companies want to be more inclusive, but maybe just don't know how? Like, is there a gap of some sort, do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's pretty interesting. Again, over the last 2 years, there's been a huge push for DEI and diversity in general. And we see here at Disability Solutions, we've seen it for years, is, people love diversity, but somehow they always forget about people with disabilities.
Yes.
And I always think there's some kind of uncomfortableness around the word disability. There's a lot of stigma around disability. So I think employers are they want to do it. They know they need to do it. And I think they're just a little hesitant sometimes. And that's really where we come in sometimes. Our motto is changing minds and changing lives. We realize that changing minds has to be a huge part of what we do when we're working with employers and helping them hire people with disabilities. I'll give you a quick story. I got my hair cut today, as I know it's going to be on this podcast. So I went in to my local barber, and I was, I go to this local barber here in Bethel, Connecticut, and they have about 5 different seats, 5 different people who do the hair. And I love it because I go in, and every time I go in there, I get pretty similar haircut, but I get different people, and they have different stories. We have different conversations. I have a guy who I talk football with. I have another guy I talk work with, another lady I talk different things with. So it's always very interesting. But today I got a lady, and she's like, "Oh, what do you do?" So I told her I'm a disability consultant, where I help employers hire people with disabilities. And immediately she's like, "Oh, that's so nice what you do." And she's like, "Oh, that's great that they get to work at supermarkets and, bag groceries and stuff." And there's no ill intent, right? That's her vision of disability.
Wow.
And I think that's a lot. Like, we work in the space, some in HR and, work in the diversity world. They all know this and live in it. But outside this world, there is that kind of different view of disability. So I think a huge part of what we do and what you all are doing down there is really educating employers of what actually disability looks like, and really focus on the talent rather than just the disability, and kind of get around some of those fears and stigmas. We always like to say that, employers tend to look at what people with disabilities can't do, and how we can accommodate the individuals, rather than looking at the strengths of what they can actually do.
Absolutely.
It's true.
Very true. So, what would you say employers should know about individuals with disabilities? Like, what is something that you could tell employers about individuals with disabilities?
Yeah, so a couple of things. Again, first you got to change your mindset of what disability is. And one stat that always comes to mind and kind of surprises a lot of people is that 70% of disabilities are actually invisible. So you have people with disabilities working for you right now. They don't all need special requests or accommodations. So there's people working with you right now. I can guarantee it. And if they're not, you're doing something wrong. So most companies have people with disabilities working for them. They're usually just not identifying as a person with disability or coming out and saying it. But people with disabilities, they can do each and every job that you have. It's just really finding the right person for the right position. And that's kind of what we do and what you do there at Workforce Solutions as well. Is, again, we have talented individuals with all types of backgrounds. Disability doesn't discriminate. It hits all backgrounds, all diverse groups, men, women, African American, all across the board. So that's a huge thing for people who are employers that are looking to diversify their workforce. People with disabilities cross all the diverse groups. So again, the real thing employers need to know is that disability probably isn't what they think it is, and I can guarantee you they can do their job. They can do your jobs just as good, if not better, than those without.
Definitely.
Well, there
definitely.
we go.
Yeah. So that being said, I remember last time we spoke, Kevin, you had mentioned some pretty cool projects you guys were working on. Do you mind telling us a little bit more about those projects, as well as maybe some of the employers that Disability Solutions is partnering up with?
Yeah, absolutely. So we work all across the country, and now as of 2022, we're working globally with a couple of great employers as well. But to quickly go back, so we're Disability Solutions. We are what we call a consulting arm of Ability Beyond. So our parent company is a nonprofit, works directly with people with disabilities, and been doing it for over 60 years. So we created Disability Solutions about 10 years ago to work directly with employers. Again, a lot of education and help them develop some successful programs. It all started with Pepsi Beverages about 10 years ago, probably 10 plus years ago at this point. And I was new to the role. Obviously, it's a new company. And Frieda and Workforce Solutions was one of the first talent partners that we met. And I couldn't tell you more that I was very welcomed into your organization, and we collaborated and seen lots of success. Frieda, David Spears, I'm not sure if he's still with you, I believe he is, and Cornelius and all the old crew.
Absolutely.
It really was a great experience. It really helped me develop a lot of things we do now to be successful. So it all started back in Houston about 10 years ago, working for the Houston plant with Pepsi. And 10 years later, again, we now work with about 67 different employers.
Wow.
So locally in Houston, again, Pepsi's still hiring, of course. We work with a great company called Centerpoint Energy, which I'm sure you're familiar with.
Very.
Yeah, they are a wonderful company. We've had a relationship with them for about 3.5 years now. They've made some great strides in their employment of people with disabilities. They continue to be a great partner of ours. And when it comes to new projects, we started working with Frito-Lay in 2020.
Nice.
And we piloted that program in 2 sites in California last year. And now we've, here in 2022, we've expanded into 7 additional sites, including Houston. So we're hiring at Houston Sales, helping them, the Frito team in Houston for sales. And also Rosenberg. We're at Rosenberg's right outside the Houston area. And that's really the warehouse roles for them. So great employer to work with. And again, they're seeing amazing results across the country, and especially locally there in Houston. So if you have any interested individuals or colleagues that have interested job seekers, Frito's a really great place to work, really great opportunities to find some a career path to be successful and move forward and just have a really good job.
That sounds fantastic, and I love that you guys are working with different industries like the energy industry, and you are working towards getting rid of that stigma that you had mentioned earlier with your barbershop friend. So that's absolutely fantastic. Kevin, do you have any advice for anyone with a disability or an employer who wants to hire an individual with a disability?
Sure, yeah. So for the job seeker, I think you kind of mentioned in the beginning, finding a job is a job within itself. It's hard, right?
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
If you're a job seeker, the disability is probably even a little bit harder, depending on your disability. But you really want to go out there and find employers that are really inclusive. A lot of companies will say they're inclusive, but they're not. So you want to go out there and really find employers that you want to work for. And there's some that aren't ready yet for hiring people with disabilities or hiring people at all. So make sure you're finding the right employer. You're interviewing them as well. Don't forget that. And one thing I see is there's a lot of individuals sometimes we work with where they go for a job that they just aren't a good fit for, whether it's part of their disability or not disability. So you want to make sure when you're researching and finding jobs, make sure you're finding and applying to jobs that you're meeting the qualifications, that you have the requirements, that you really would want to do the job versus just applying to any job. So really try to find the right job. Just don't apply to 100 jobs a day. Apply to 10 quality jobs per day if you can, and really match up for what the experience is. So it sets everyone up for success. Also, talking about work with Frieda, and we see this with a lot of other employers as well, when people usually really do bad on the interview. I always say the interview is a very awkward situation. No one's asking you at the grocery store or at your friend's house, tell me about your greatest weakness or your greatest mistake. So interviews are very uncomfortable. So that's where we see a lot of people drop off, whether it's a disability or not. And when we do some like a pilot program with Frieda, you can tell we have great individuals with great backgrounds and qualifications, but when they get in that interview, they can't, what I call, sell themselves. They're not giving great answers. So avoid those one-word answers, avoid blabbering on like I sometimes do. Really practice. Most companies ask somewhat of the same questions. So if you know those questions going in, which again, they're usually similar, practice those questions. Think of your stories. Think of your examples you're going to use before you go in to that interview, or you're going to be stuck with like a deer in headlights look. I work with Tim Stump, who does similar work with you all in Arizona, and he gave me some great advice. Is every question you're being asked in an interview really is, why should I hire you? So you should be able to tell that person in your example why they should hire you. So that's very important. So it's really on the job seeker side. Again, find the right job, practice interviews, make sure you're matched up in a good match for that role, and find a good employer that you want to work for. On the employer side, going back to what I said earlier, it's really just educate yourself and think of what disability is. Their disability goes all over the place, as I said earlier. There's different backgrounds. We've hired engineers, we've hired scientists, leaders. Our executive director has an invisible disability. Our sales director has an invisible disability, and they all do their jobs very, very well. And again, it's any age range, any diverse group, anyone can have a disability. So think about that and kind of, broaden your vision of what disability looks like. Because again, going back to the barbershop, people think disability is that, and it's not always that. So I would really educate yourself, and more importantly, just get out there. Start working with Workforce Solutions, start working with agencies that have talent with disabilities, because they have talent, they're looking for jobs. And if you're like any employer out there, you are looking for talent. And talent's hard to come by now. So again, broaden your knowledge, broaden your education of disabilities, and again, go out and start developing partnerships and get those job postings in front of great organizations like yourselves.
Kevin, that's crazy. I can't believe that much time has gone by since we first met. I think you said 10 years ago. Oh my goodness, that's a very long time. And it was such a great collaboration. It really was. So I guess one of the questions that we'd like to know is, what is the preferred method of contacting Disability Solutions if you have additional questions or concerns?
Sure. So if you're a job seeker, we have a career center. It's jobs.disabilitytalent.org. So all our employers have their jobs, or our employer partners have their jobs on our career center. And when someone goes there and say they find a job that they want to apply to with Frieda, once they hit apply, they're going to go right into Frieda's site and apply through Frieda. So we're not hiring any individuals, our employers are. And if you do apply, you can reach out to us, me personally, if you want, or you can reach out to DSIT@disabilitytalent.org, and we can follow up with the employer on your application. So you can find jobs all over our career center, again, at jobs.disabilitytalent.org. A lot of great opportunities. Again, all different types of jobs. We don't just hire entry-level positions. We're hiring people with disabilities for all these roles. And that's what we make our employers do, or not make our employers do, but help our employers do.
Right.
And if you're an employer and you want to work with us, we do, like, again, changing minds, changing lives is our motto. So we do a lot of education, anywhere from dispelling fear and stigmas to how to improve your accommodation process, to how to develop partners in your local community. We do website accessibility. We do job description review. We do a lot of different things, but the overall goal really is to help our employers put together a successful and sustainable program to hire people with disabilities. So you can reach out. Our regular website is disabilitytalent.org.
Okay.
Sounds great.
That's great information.
Yes, definitely. We really appreciate your time, Kevin, this afternoon. You have shared some wonderful information with us, and we are so excited to share this information with our customers, with our viewers, and just would love to spread the word. Thank you all to our viewers for tuning into another episode of Diversity Works. The information that Kevin shared, the links he shared, will be linked to the bottom of this video, so please do check out his website, and we hope to see you soon on another episode of Diversity Works.